thank you so much for joining us this evening. And what an awesome day. I've got some awesome news to share with you a little later on. And this is the Good News Station, and I love good news. And today we're going to be talking, we being Frank and I got Frank in the studio with me today, and he is wearing his, what do you call this, Frank? This is like your...
A jacket.
Well, I know. I know. There's not that many times in Florida that you get to wear a jacket, but this is not just a jacket. This is not just a jacket. This jacket is really legit. This is a bomber jacket. Like, what do you call this?
It's a flight jacket.
It's a flight jacket. Yes. It looks like Top Gun. It's awesome. And you should wear it proudly. Like, where did you get it?
It was issued to me in the United States Army, and I had to pay for it as I left the service because I didn't turn it in.
Oh, you kept it.
Yeah, that's the way it works in the military. When you retire, or when you go from one duty station to the next, you get all kinds of equipment issued to you, and you're responsible to turn it back in. And if you don't turn it back in,
but it has your name on it.
No, that's just a...
Oh, that just comes right off. Oh, I see. Oh, wow. They're working to save money in the Army. Okay. I like that. That's awesome. Well, it's really cool, and it's an honor to have you in here with me. We really appreciate you and all of your hard work that you do for not just our practice, but for our country. It does mean a lot. It means a lot to all of us. And I like it when you wear your armor stuff, your Army stuff. It makes me feel safe. Doesn't he look legit? He looks really legit in here, and I know you are, but I feel safe. Like, hey, Frank is here, and it's nice. I've been doing this business for a really, really long time. Oops. And I have been in a lot of places. I used to work out of my car for the most time when I got started. And there were not a lot. I mean, I feel like God was always with me and always protecting me, and I always felt safe. However, there came a time when I realized it was time for me to get an office and start taking serious about my own personal safety in different situations. And I think as you grow in your business, you start to expand in that way. But there were a couple instances where I could have used Frank. No lie. So
you're here.
It's good. We got Frank in the house. And today we are going to be talking about our process and why we have a process, and just how I've designed this over the years to really become efficient and to make sure that I am doing the absolute best that I can for my clients consistently. And, as you grow, another thing you have to do is get organized. You got to get a security guard, and then you got to get organized. I got
the military calls them TTPs these days: tactics, techniques, and procedures.
There we go.
TTPs.
That's what we need. That's what I needed.
TTPs.
See, God knows what we need, and he brings it to us in a perfect timing. So I got Frank, and he is attention to detail, and he is learning this process too. And in my way of teaching, which I think he grows impatient with probably sometimes. My children too. So and I've been so excited. This is something that I've put off for a really long time. Like, I've wanted one of these.
Put off brushing your teeth?
Well, because it was like $80.
Oh, for your child.
No, for myself. So a toothbrush is like, $4 or $5, or you get an $80 one.
Right.
I finally was like, I'm gonna get it. This is kind of what, like Easter, I bought myself this water pick. So it just came in last night. I set it all up, and my 9-year-old, he's pretty meticulous anyway, so he was pretty excited about it. I'm showing him what it was, and lo and behold, I loved it. I should have got it a long time ago. And so I teach him how it works because he wants to try it. Well, this is how you change the adjustments. This is how you do it. He's in there enjoying himself. And then I went on about my way, and he's in there doing his thing. Well, then the little one comes in, and he wants to try it. Well, I had already done my part teaching the older one how to use it, and just was negligent.
Did you tell him he was responsible for instructing?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I just left it at that. So I'm like, Maren will help you. Well, that's the oldest. And he goes in, and then I hear, Mom, I need help. I'm like expecting his older brother to go in, help him.
Older brother.
You can do it. You know how to do it. And he goes in there, and whatever happens, he wasn't able to change. No one showed him how to change the attachment. So what do you think he did? Snapped it right off. There's like a little switch, to release it. He just broke it right off. I just opened the box like 20 minutes before. So I'm like, it's not your fault. He's like, I'm sorry, Mom. I'm like, well, it's not your fault because no one taught you how to do it.
Good lesson.
Yeah. Nobody taught you. I taught him, but then I didn't teach you. And it was just unfair to him because he felt terrible because he knew I'd just gotten it. And then wasn't very fun for me because I'd just gotten it. And then I couldn't get the part that's broken off is just stuck in there. So I don't know. Like, it just is what it is. I'm going to.
Little WD-40 will fix it probably.
Yes. I'm going to leave it to Frank. If you can take apart a helicopter and put it back together, maybe you can do the water peg. We'll see. But the lesson is there. It's like, you can't, if no one teaches you, then you can't be at fault when you mess up. Training is so important, and understanding the process. Yeah. So this is our process, and the instructions are laid out. I figured out how to use the water pick because I read the instructions, but then they weren't available to my 6-year-old who really can't read anyways, although he's getting there. He's coming close. So let's talk about our process and why, how we go about it. And Frank is realizing that all these meetings just end up being kind of the one after the other. They're the same format, yet they're so different because everybody's story is so different. And I think that's what keeps me so engaged in this career. Like, I love it because it's never the same thing twice. It's like surfing is that way. I love to surf. Fishing is that way. You don't know what you're going to get. Golf, I think, is why people love golf, because every time it's a challenge.
Ball never goes the same way twice.
Yeah, you think you're so good at it. Right. And it's like, so here are the main steps, the breakdown of our process. Number one, it's the discovery meeting. And then we go into the second part, which is kind of our homework, where we do our analysis and we do our
most times on both sides there's some homework.
Both sides, yeah. And then we come up with our scenarios or our recommendations, right? Proposals, illustrations, we come up with those. And then we choose together the actual plan, or maybe we make adjustments, and then we keep working our way until we come to the conclusion of this is what our financial plan is going to be, which is always flexible, but then we start implementing. And then we have this long relationship of ongoing reviews and interaction. So let's start with the discovery meeting. So that's just kind of like high level view of how we operate, but it's a little more detailed than that. And there's a little more, go ahead.
Well, you're listening to the Mindie Molina Show. Yes, this is a live broadcast, and you're welcome to call in today and talk to Mindie or I. We'd be happy to take your call and tell us a story or have a question. The number is 772-221-1100. This is the Mindie Molina Show. You could also find us at mindiemolina.com.
Thank you, Frank. So the discovery meeting, what would it be like? For example, if you called if you called our office and scheduled an appointment, or maybe you call the radio station and give your information there, or you go online and book an appointment, then what? What's going to happen? So this is step one. Step one is what we call the discovery meeting, which is really about building a relationship together. Introduction. And there's 2 phases of this that are really my favorite parts, like my absolute favorites. And they're all awesome. But this first initial meeting, where whether it's Zoom or over the phone, face to face, obviously I love. This is the fun part, because this is where we really get to know each other. And one of the things that I always say about myself, and Frank can attest to this, is that I'm very informal. We like to keep it lighthearted and relaxed,
Being born of the Spirit helps with that, to a large degree.
Absolutely, because, all right, I compare it. I think that anytime we're going to the doctor, I think there's like a little bit of anxiety going to the doctor. going to the dentist.
White coat syndrome.
Yes, I have it. It stresses me out. I don't like to go. I certainly don't like going to the dentist. But there's an emotional cycle that we go through. And I think going and sitting.
Psychological too, bro.
Yeah. Building a financial plan. Yes.
Sitting with a complete stranger.
Talking about your finances.
Everything you've done your whole life.
Exposing, your accomplishments, your failures, these things. So I compare it to going to the dentist because I feel like, letting someone, and there's dentists probably listening laughing, but letting someone just like dig around in my mouth just seems, it's like I'm like subject to judgment. I'm like, what are they seeing and how are they judging me, compared to all the other mouths that they see? Because it's like, I don't like going to the dentist. I'm sure I'm fine, but I can think of 1,000 other things I'd rather do.
Yeah, most people I think are that way. No one likes going to the dentist.
No one likes sitting down and opening their books and their savings and all these things, because I think there can be that attachment of how do I measure up? How am I compared? Right. And that kind of like you're opening yourself up. Yeah. Yes. That's why I knew Frank was the guy for the job, because he enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it.
How good they prepared, and they want to show you how they prepared and see if if they're. So some folks are eager to share with us.
Some are not.
Some are not. Very hesitant.
And it's kind of like getting over that hurdle. Absolutely. And I think that it's just important for you to know that in this initial meeting, this is not a moment of judgment. This is not a moment of how did you measure up. This is not a moment of everything like, look what I've done. It really is never like that for me. Certainly for me, it's never like that. It's really an informal, tell me about your family, tell me about your life. What have you, where have you been? What have you been doing? And what is your job? Tell me. It's really, really getting to know each other. No different than if you were meeting someone at the park or just introduced. It's very light and it's very informal.
As long as the potential client or clients willing to do that. Some people want to get right to the heart of the matter, right? So all personalities are different. It's nice. It's nice when that happens. I'm sure that it happens quite a bit.
I think it's my personality though.
Right.
It's my personality to not let it slip away, because I feel like anytime you're planning, the more I'm able to get to know someone, the more I'm able to customize their financial plan for them. So it's not a part that I skip, and it's not a part that I take lightly, because part of the process, it is a first step. It's a really crucial step, and it's not necessarily just chitter chatter.
Just about, right. Yeah. Not just about the numbers.
We're possibly, more than likely, creating and interviewing each other for a lifelong relationship.
Right, that's the goal.
A lifelong relationship. When your spouse passes away, I'm going to be a phone call.
What's important?
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah,
when your two kids are arguing over your estate, I'm going to be involved. So, and when you lose a job or something happens or you're going through divorce, I'm going to be involved. And it's important for us to get to know each other and to know that you can have that comfort. Confidence. Your financial advisor not only has to be, intelligent and have their process, their ducks in a row, but they also need to be someone that you can trust and that you are comfortable talking to about uncomfortable things.
Right. And these a lot of what we're talking about too is that, that word we've talked about before in the program, fiduciary. Right?
The part of the fiduciary standard is that you have to have these procedures. You have to do all the due diligence in the beginning in order to meet that standard or meet the criteria. So once we get past our relationship building, the relationship interview, kind of figuring out if I'm somebody that you can relate to and understand or feel comfortable with, then, and vice versa. I have had instances, only 2 in decades, where I've, bowed out gracefully, but I think it's important for you, again, to find an advisor that you are comfortable talking about uncomfortable things with. Okay. The next thing, now in this discovery meeting, we go through what is called our fact finder. And this is a process, part of my process that's really, really crucial, and it is very detailed. It's very involved. However, all of the information is crucial in order for us to create a fully comprehensive plan and to know that no matter what happens, we're prepared for it.
Right. Not everyone has all the aspects of the fact finder, but the ones that do, if you list it, then we want to put your card together with all the parts and the right pieces. If you leave parts and pieces out, how can we deliver the product that you're looking for?
Let's start with the beginning. So do you have the fact finder pulled
God
up?
created the heavens and the earth. It's Genesis 1:1. Oh, yes, I have the fact finder.
And then Mindie created the fact finder. So the fact finder on the bottom there. So there's your basic information, your birthday, your name, your address. We send you a thank you card, but there's the goals on the bottom. So read those off. What
are your major objectives for your investments? And the block 1 is current and future income. Block 2, preserving capital, building wealth for heirs, keeping ahead of inflation, increasing returns are 5 goals that we have listed.
So these are just a general kind of start off. What's really important to you?
Could be multiple.
And you can be in different phases of your retirement planning. You could be a decade, right? Decades away from retirement, or you could be in retirement. And so depending on where you are, whether you are, early in your career or
this
80,
is why we have
thinking about,
so that we know the right plan to put together.
We want to have the direction. So then we go into the income portion, which is really about discovering all your income potential, all your income resources, what income you have now, what is likely to last forever, what is likely to run out, what can we expect, when do you anticipate retirement, what are some other questions on there that are crucial?
Job increases in salary if you're on a
yes, are we anticipating an increase in salary?
Your employer, how long you've been there.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Any contributions you're making to your 401ks? Do you have an IRA? Do you have an IRA you need to roll over?
DSSA.gov.
Yep. Have you established a Social Security administration account? So you can go,
SSA.
And we recommend you go on to ssa.gov and log in, create an account if you haven't already. And that way you have access to your Social Security benefits, and they will give you, if you're not already on Social Security, they'll give you projections. And we like to have those projections so we can really create scenarios like because we want to help you decide when is the right time for you to start Social Security.
The IRS, believe it or not, sometimes actually makes mistakes. And you should have, so after you file your taxes, within several months or so, you should be able to go on and confirm that your taxes match the Social Security.
Very good point. So Social Security is on there. Do you have any annuities, any pensions? Are you entitled to them once you retire? So questions like that. Any spousal continuation. It goes into detail in terms of, we want to know, for example, if Frank is receiving a pension and something happens to him, can his wife expect to receive his pension for the rest of her life as well? Or does it end? Or does she only get 50% of it? We want to know those answers because that's how we're able, again, no matter what happens, we're prepared. We're helping you walk through. And this is the same for every single person.
Well, we also, while we have those facts, we have a very detailed database analysis tool that helps us put those calculations together so that you can actually look at the numbers.
Which goes into?
Most clients really like when we're able to display for them and show them how these calculations work out in the future.
And that is part of step 2.
Based on inflation.
So we ask all of these questions. Frank is exactly right. We go into phase 2 when we are doing our diagnostic phase and we're doing our plan selection phase. We use that software. So all this information that we are gathering from you, tedious as it may seem, it's really not that complicated. It seems like, wow, this is a really intense document, but at the end of the day, you're funneling all of your information into one place so that you can so that we can create everything, cross the T's, dot the I's. Okay. Investment plans.
We're still live here in Palm City on WCNO. This is the Mindie Molina Show you're listening to. Feel free to call in with questions or comments or stories you'd like to share with Mindie or I. Frank, you can reach us at 772-221-1100, 772-221-1100. You can find us at mindiemolina.com as well if you'd like to schedule an appointment or learn about our website as well, and that's MINDIE, Mindie Molina.
Thank you, Frank. So then we go into the investment plan. So we like to see what strategies do you have right now? And this is us gathering information from you based on your current situation. So all of the stuff that you have right now is what we're going to be talking about in that first meeting. Discovering where you are, what you have, what your goals are. How are those things aligning with where you want to be in the future? And what are your biggest concerns? Also, what are your biggest threats? We can help you identify those threats. What are your biggest risks? What are your biggest challenges? We work together to identify them and then build a plan and strategies that are going to offset those, that are going to close the box on any of those worries or concerns or threats that you might have. Your investment plan, all of the accounts that you have, what we like is for you to bring a statement in, and we can use that statement to analyze any costs involved with your investments. We just had
may or may not be aware of. You should be aware of.
Exactly. And we take the necessary steps to do all of the investigating for you. For example, just the other day, what happened? Came in with this statement.
Very concerned about his variable annuity
that was moving up and down with the market. He was not happy. And what did I do?
We got on the phone.
Yes.
And called
the company
with the client sitting there to give his approval.
How long did it take?
It took less than 5 minutes.
Exactly. And that amount of time,
5% in fees.
Yeah.
By the way,
we were able to identify a lot of concerns that he didn't even know he had, which one was fees, the variable aspect, understanding exactly that current investment that he had. We want to understand it top to bottom, and then help you understand it top to bottom, and then decide, hey, is this something that is in line with our goals, or is this something that is not in line with our goals? Okay, it's not. So now what do? That's where we come in phases 2 and 3 and create solutions to overcome. But the biggest thing is having those statements really allows us to do the investigative work to help you understand exactly what you have. Now, keep in mind, just because we gave an example that was a negative result, there are times when we get investments and we say, oh, this is good, you should keep this. For example, had a lady that had a policy. It was basically a cash account, which now it's not as attractive because interest rates are up, but it was locked in at 4% for the rest of her life.
Not our laddered I-bond ladies.
Yeah. Two previous years, and then we can use our tax software that we use to analyze any opportunities for you to save in taxes. Sometimes there are investments that you might have that might be causing you to have a higher taxation on your Social Security. Maybe you're getting bumped to where you're paying too much in Medicare premiums that are for Part B that you shouldn't be paying, all because of your investment strategy. And if you don't know how to construct a plan that is in sync with the tax strategy too, the whole point of this is to create one holistic plan that works smoothly with the other. Healthcare. So leading into healthcare, we like to know what coverage you have, how much you're paying, what prescriptions are you taking. We gather all this information because we may need it in part of our planning process. For example, some people who are not retired yet, what about them in that gap? Like, what if you're going to retire at 60, but you're not eligible for Medicare until 65? How are we going to offset that expense?
Healthcare costs are so high.
I had a couple who he really wanted to retire, but because of his age, he was 58. He was really wanting to retire. And she is saying, well, I have to keep working until he's 65. So she felt like forced to keep working only because to offset that expense. And we went through this whole process and gathered all the information. And without, of course, in the back of my mind, I already kind of know some ideas because I've been doing this for so long. But when we actually got to phase 3, when I showed them the different scenarios, one of the first things I wanted to do was to show her options. Hey, you can actually afford to retire and still pay for his health insurance for this amount.
And in this analysis, like Mindie's saying, you have to, put down on paper your budget, your monthly and annual expenses, have them listed out. Some people do that. If you don't have that, how are you expected to know how much money you need to retire or live off of if you don't know what your budget is?
And I say this a lot. I'm going to say it again. And that's that numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie.
So I love math. It is just as honest as it can be. And you can.
This is what we help.
It's an end game.
Most folks underestimate what they're spending
monthly.
They always give us a figure that's lower than what they're actually spending when they dig into the details.
And then you factor in inflation, which we do. The expense portion of this process is really huge. And I think you've realized that, haven't you? Yeah. Is that
how do I know how much I need to retire if I don't know what my expenses are?
And what can you expect them to be 15 years from now? And we take into account inflation.
So these are things we help folks figure out.
Yes. And
think about.
And it's not that complicated. Are you realizing, like, it sounds like so much stuff, but aren't you seeing now how the fact finder, how that form really sets the pace for everything to come?
Yeah, it's a foundational document.
It is the foundation.
Jesus is the cornerstone. Right?
Yes, it's the cornerstone of our planning.
It's still the Mindie Molina Show, live broadcast. You can call into the station, talk to Mindie or I, have a question or a story you'd like to share. 772-221-1100. 772-221-1100.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, and of course you can visit with us and meet with us. Our no-cost consultations. You can set that up online, call in, visit us online, set that up, or reach out to us.
Yeah, I think it's also, like, you bring up a good point. It's important to say that at this point in our practice, we do not charge for any of this process. This process has zero cost to you. In the end, if you decide to do business with us, then we get paid through the investments that we use or the insurance companies. We get paid once you become a client. Okay. However, some planning firms charge $2,000 to $3,000 for this process. Right. To build you a plan like this would cost $2,000 to $3,000, and we are not. I don't want to ever do that. I'd like to not have to do that. So I think because I think it's so important. It's one of those things. It's like charging for air. If somebody is wanting to retire, they really need these fundamental practices that are built into this process so that they know that they have a bulletproof retirement, like they say, or risk-free retirement. You see all these slogans. This is what we're talking about. It's like building this wall of safety around your retirement years.
No matter what's going on in the economy, no matter what's going on in the White House.
What are some of the biggest threats to a retirement plan? To a retiree. So someone that's 70 years old that is no longer working, right? Let's say a couple. What are their